So there's a doc that came out a while ago in theaters and is now on select streaming platforms.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't even been able to see it because I don't have those platforms.
I haven't
I
seen
don't
it
have access to
either.
those platforms. Yeah, it's on CNN,
Yeah.
shrug, and it's on Hulu Plus or Hulu Live, whatever it's called.
Yeah, whatever the premium.
Yeah, so I don't have that version of Hulu, so I don't have access to this yet. But there was a Luther Vandross doc that came out, which is called Luther Vandross Never Too Much. It had a limited theater run, and then it's on streaming, but it's not everywhere yet. It's just on those two streaming apps. But
Mm-hmm.
um, since it hit those streaming apps,
Mm-hmm.
there's been a lot of buzz about some of the things that have happened in the doc, and one of the things is specifically Patti LaBelle. Um, there's a clip of Patti LaBelle, quote unquote, outing Luther Vandross, and she says, "Yeah, he's gay," and basically that uh, Luther was looking for love, and part of that was he was gay. And I am paraphrasing because I have not seen it. I have only seen what people have said about it. So if I'm misquoting exactly what Patty said, I apologize. But people have kind of been coming for Patty because they say that she outed Luther. Why? Because people say that, well, Luther never confirmed that he was gay. Luther never said what he was or was not. And she's the only one on record saying this. That is what people are saying and people are upset about. Um, and so word got back to Patty and her camp. And
That's why I've been smiling, by the way.
yeah.
Cause
So word got
I
back
feel like
to,
when Patty gets into some shit, it's always entertaining.
yeah. So we're going to play that and then we'll talk.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the stigma back then, if he was gay, the thought of, quote, coming out, that he couldn't bear it. He'd rather be alone than have that stigma attached.
One of the things that really pissed me off is there were people who have talked about his personal life who, you know, he considered friends.
Did he struggle with the idea of coming out publicly? Was that something that you talked about at all?
We talked about it. It was basically he did not want his mother to be, although she might have known, but he wasn't going to come out and say this to the world. And he had a lot of lady fans, and he told me that he just didn't want to upset the world.
I don't really know what I want to say. I'm going to always respect whatever position he took.
Questions about my sexuality, well, I suppose just always be questions. Let me tell you who I owe answers to. What I owe you is my music, my talent, my best effort. You know, that's all. I will neither deny or confirm that any such rumors about personal things like that are true or untrue. I won't give the satisfaction of a denial because that is a submission of sort. I wouldn't even address it. I would just say, mind your business. That's my response to that.
So, okay, so let me be clear because I guess I misspoke before I played the clip. Um, so, so what I just played is from the doc. This is the clip everybody's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's happening now is, and I'm going to read a little bit here. Well, I don't need to read it. I could just summarize. But basically, that clip is the clip that everyone is talking about.
Yeah.
And Patti LaBelle and her team feel that they were painted as the villain in the documentary. And so that's largely what people um, are discussing
Yeah, they're
So here we go. So it says, I got you. There is stuff to read. Patti LaBelle's team is upset over her portrayal in CNN's. Oh, it's a CNN doc. Okay, that makes sense.
yeah.
In CNN's documentary Luther Never Too Much, which aired on New Year's Day, according to Page 6, the film misrepresents LaBelle, who had a decades-long friendship. Yeah, a decades-long friendship with Luther Vandross as someone who publicly discussed his private life despite her long-standing support for him and his family. LaBelle participated in an extensive interview for the documentary, but declined to sign release forms when denied the chance to review the final edit. As a result, her interview was excluded, and producers used a 2017 clip from Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen, where she discussed Vandross's reluctance to come out publicly. The clip, paired with comments from Vandross's collaborator Richard Marx, criticizing friends who shared personal details, led to some feel LaBelle was unfairly painted as a villain. Page 6 also reports that key elements of LaBelle's deep connection to Vandross, such as her care for him during his illness and their mutual impact on each other's lives, were omitted from the documentary. LaBelle continues to tour and has not yet watched the film. Okay, so I thought I misunderstood before I played the clip. I'm sorry. That's my fault for not doing the proper pre-pod. But yeah, so that's the whole thing there, folks.
This is complicated.
Is it?
Well, it's complicated because to me it doesn't sound like she was even in the 2017 clip. It doesn't sound like she was looking to be salacious. If
Okay, I agree with that.
if anyone had ill intent there, it was the other side of that. People get asked a bunch of random, sometimes off-color questions on Watch What Happens Live. That's a fact. I think that, so I don't want to excuse what she did, but I do want to acknowledge the fact that it didn't sound to me like she did it because she didn't care for him. It sounded like she tried to tell his story for him. And unfortunately, that's just, especially when it comes to this sort of thing, someone's sexuality and whether they wanted people to know or not, or want people to know or not, it's really not your story to tell. It's that person's story to tell.
Right. That's why I ask, is it complicated?
No,
Because
that part of it isn't complicated. I just feel like to villainize her for it, I don't think she's a villain. Like I wanted to make that clear, that I don't think she sounded like a bad person doing a bad thing to be bad. I think she made a misstep. I think she should have not told his business. So
okay.
she was wrong. But
Oh, okay. Because that's why I asked, is this complicated? Because I feel like if
no.
I tell you a secret, whatever the secret is, and 12 years later, 12 years after my death, because he died in 2005, this interview was in 2017, the one they took the clip from. Yeah, she is answering a direct question. But Patti LaBelle was not new to the game in 2017. Patti LaBelle, by 2017, was an OG veteran.
Yeah.
So for her to be asked a direct question is cool. But by that time, Patti LaBelle has had enough press and training to know, and life experience to know, I'm not going to answer this in a way that my friend wouldn't have wanted. I know people's secrets. You know people's secrets. I think if somebody gave me a secret that they wanted me to take to the grave, I'm assuming that's what this was, right? So if Dashing D tells me something, hey, it is a secret I don't want anybody to know, take it to the grave. Okay, or whatever. This is not something I'm cool with the public knowing, right? Okay, let's go with a better example. We do this pod. If you say, yo, Jay, there's something I say on the pod, I want you to edit it out, and I don't want anyone in the public to ever know this thing. That's where it ends. It doesn't matter if you pass away today, tomorrow, in 50 years, 100 years from now, and I outlive you. If you die at 100 and I live to 105, after you die, I'm not supposed to come out and be like,
Agree.
yeah, let me tell you what she said on the pod that she never wanted y'all to know. Why am I saying that? It don't matter if they ask me, hey, we heard there's a clip where Dashing D said X, Y, and Z. Is that true? I'm supposed to be like, it's none of your business.
I agree.
Or lie. You're not on the witness stand. Lie. Nah, she never said that. Because that's my homie.
Right. No, I agree. I believe in loyalty among friends. I don't tell people's business, and I don't expect people to tell mine.
Especially to the public. This ain't even like,
No.
hey, I told my closest friend who kept it a secret too.
Right.
Nigga, the public?
Right. And I tell very few people my business. So I would be deeply offended. And if I die and people start telling things about me that no one else knew, that would deeply offend me from the grave. Because it's just not something that I ever do to anyone. So I don't expect people to do it to me. Unless obviously it causes harm to someone in some way, then that's a different conversation. But general things that, are personal to me, like I don't want people to know. I'll it's either expected that people won't say anything, or I'll say it outright if I feel like I have to say it. So I understand that, right? Like they made a point. The people who weren't Patti LaBelle in the clip, they made a point to say that, it was kind of one of those things where he didn't want to talk about it. He didn't want to say one way or another what it was. And I respect that. I'm not, someone else's sexuality is not any of my business.
Right.
And so I didn't need that information. We didn't need that information from Patti LaBelle.
Mm-hmm.
I also think, and again, I'm not trying to defend her, but I also think when you get to a certain age, you just start saying shit that maybe you shouldn't say.
But then you should shut the fuck up.
Or you start caring less about what people will think of you when you speak freely.
But then you can't also turn around and say I was painted as a villain and I'm furious.
I
Because what she should have done then is signed off on the interview that she did for the doc, instead of saying, no, if I can't get final edits, or if I can't see final edits, you can't use it. Because you can't have both is the problem. Either you're going to be an active participant or you're not.
Well, she's also, if you get to a certain level in your stardom, no matter what it is you're doing, right? Do you require, I'm trying to think about this for myself too, but do you require, like, would you have the expectation that you could call the shots when it came to stuff like that? You
No,
contribute to an
CNN
interview.
is not giving anybody final edits.
Okay.
Would they allow you to see the final edits? Maybe, if you are someone they revere. But today, I don't think Patti LaBelle is revered by CNN the way that she would have been in the 80s.
Probably not. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I do think that sometimes you just have to not say what you want to say, and like,
Just shut the fuck up.
it's
Because the thing is, you're also looked at as one of his closest friends. If one of your closest friends is saying something about you, yeah, you said it publicly. They're going to use it. And that's the thing. CNN would be wrong if they posted something in this doc, or put something in this doc that was said in privacy and was not signed off on. As a documentarian, yeah, that would be wrong. Like, hey, I told you this in confidence.
Mhm.
You recorded it on your watch and spilled it out to the public. Yeah, that's wrong. If me and you are having a private conversation, I audio record you and I send it out to the public, that's wrong. But they clipped up something that's public.
But then I have to ask. They pulled that clip from Watch What Happens Live. You telling me that that was the only time Patti LaBelle ever talked about Luther Vandross publicly?
No, but that is clearly a segment based on the clip that we heard. It's clearly a segment where they're speaking about Luther Vandross' sexuality and the mystery of it. And so when you doing research, hey, look what I found. You're gonna include that.
I guess so. I just feel like the clip is already so old, and I don't know.
2017. They're doing a doc about Luther Vandross. I don't think 2017 is long ago if we're doing a doc about a star from the 80s and the 90s. That would be probably one of the most recent things in the doc. And again, I haven't seen it, but that's not so old in that case.
Okay. I'm just trying to say, like, they did some digging to find that.
Is that not what you do when you make a doc about somebody? If I do a doc about your mom, am I not supposed to go back to like back in the day and dig for stuff? If I do a doc about my dad, I'm gonna go find shit from the 60s and 70s about him. I'm gonna be like, word? You mean to tell me he used to be a bag boy at this supermarket? And we found the owner of the supermarket's son who's still alive and remembers my dad bagging up groceries? We gotta interview that guy. There's a clip of my dad performing at a church in 92. I gotta find that.
Here's the thing. Here's what I'm trying to say, because I feel like what I'm trying to say is being missed. Patty was his friend. So the reason why I asked, aren't there things that is that the only clip that anyone could find of Patti LaBelle talking about Luther? It sounds like she did a whole interview where she said things that were positive and not just this one particular thing. It sounds to me, and I haven't seen the documentary, so maybe I need to watch it before I speak on it. But it sounds to me like they went and found the worst clip they could find of her speaking about him, because they could not get final sign off on what she did with them. Instead of them going and finding where she said similar things, they chose the clip where she said something about his sexuality. To me, that just seems like, is that all you guys could find? Is that, again, I think she was wrong when she went on Watch What Happens Live and talked about his sexuality. There's no question there.
Okay.
But I guess what I'm questioning is why the people who created this documentary made that choice in lieu of what was said. Because if it's true that she was saying kind things and she was talking about how deeply connected they were and how great of a friendship they had, and that was the clip they went on the internet and found, it's a little messed up, in my opinion. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, there was nothing else in 20 years, in 30 years, that was it. A Watch What Happens Live clip. And the reason I say, well, that was so long ago, it's not like Patti LaBelle has been walking around trying to out Luther Vandross all over the place. Again, I think she was wrong for doing that. I don't think you should out anyone. That's their business to tell. But this to me sounds like it was almost like some get back. Like they tried to dig Patty. Unless I'm missing something. Because that's what it sounds like. It sounds like y'all didn't get sign off on what she truly did, and y'all went and found something that would make her look bad. That's what it sounds like.
I see what you're saying. I see both sides. I see where, hey, we tried to get this interview. We did a full interview with you and you refused to sign off. I'm going to guess, I'm assuming, in that interview, they probably asked her about this very clip. And when you don't sign off, okay, well, what are we supposed to do? So I see that side. I also see her side where it's like, yo, fam, you didn't have to include that clip. But I also see another side where it's like, you should have never said the shit, period, motherfucker.
No, I agree. She should have never said it. But
yeah, so I see multiple perspectives here.
To me, it sounds like what they pulled of her is not anywhere equivalent to what the footage they got of her. That's what it
They
sounds
can't
like.
use the footage they got of her.
I understand they can't use the footage, but that's why I'm saying, was that the only thing they could find of her talking about him?
They were working on a piece about his sexuality, so they found clips of the sexuality. She's not the only person speaking in the clip that we played.
Right, but it doesn't sound like she was interviewed specifically about his sexuality. And
You
instead,
gotta assume that it was asked in the interview.
I understand that, but that wasn't. You also got to assume that wasn't the whole interview.
I think we're talking about two different.
So then, why was that
I'm
the
talking about when
clip that
CNN
they
interviewed
included?
her. No, I'm not talking about that. That's what I'm saying. I'm assuming when CNN interviewed Patti, the interview she did not sign off on, you gotta assume that his sexuality was part of that interview.
I agree with you. But what I'm saying is, you also have to assume that that wasn't the only thing they discussed with her.
Right, but she didn't sign off on using any of that footage. So the entire interview they did with her, they can't use.
So they picked the most controversial clip they could find of her. That's the point I'm trying to make. Like,
Yeah, I don't
it's a
agree with you
false
on that.
equivalence as far as I'm concerned. If you do a whole interview with someone and you were perfectly fine with interviewing them and getting all these accounts of their relationship and whatnot, and then you turn around and you go find a clip where they're outing them, and that's the clip you use. Maybe
I think they were always using that clip.
okay.
I don't think this was in spite of. I think it was always, hey, because clearly they were already doing a segment on his sexuality, which means they already had that clip and were already going to talk about it. That's the way I see it. I don't think this was in spite of. I think it was, we have this clip, we're using this clip. And so they probably even showed her that clip in the interview, which she did not sign off on. I think she made two mistakes. I think CNN did what CNN did. They created a doc. I can't comment on the full doc because I haven't seen it. So, okay, cool. They asked his friends, which we see multiple friends in this clip, speaking about his sexuality. Okay, cool. But for me, for her to be the quote unquote villain of the doc, they would have to be harping on that multiple times. I haven't seen the doc, so I can't say is she the villain or not. But what I can say is, one, Patti should have never said shit about his sexuality publicly. Two, if Patti wanted to control the narrative, she should have had the interview released so at least she could then combat what was released from the interview, where she could do like other people have done and said, hey, I did a 1 hour interview with these people and they chose the 5 seconds that were horrible from what I said. Then I would say, oh yeah, CNN is foul for doing that. But for them to pull a clip from the internet of what you said publicly, we can't do anything about that. You said it publicly. We come up here and talk, 5 nights a week. If somebody pulls a clip from something I say about Drake, because that's who I hate on all the time up here. If somebody pulls a clip from something I said about Drake 10 years from now, I said it publicly. If you didn't want it out, you should have never said it publicly.
Okay. I feel like I did myself a disservice by not watching this before we talked about it, but
I tried to watch it. I can't. I don't have access to it.
yeah, that's why I try to watch everything and listen to everything before we talk about it, because I just want to make sure that I'm giving a thoughtful opinion and not just
Right, but we're giving
talking
our
about
opinion
things
on
that
the
I
clip
don't
that we just played.
understand. Right, but it's also out of context in the sense that I don't know what else they included in the doc. I'm over here assuming. So maybe there are other clips of her talking about him.
That they would have been included in this. This is the clip that everybody is discussing.
Okay.